the base. The real Uzumaki. Naruto sighed to himself as he got the memories of the last of his clones who were gathered all of the items in the warehouse. After he dropped the scroll next to him in the end, there were many different scrolls. Zabuza had been missing and doing missions for 15 years, none of which had been with Haku. He had gathered quite a collection, hundreds of weapons, thousands of ninja tools, hundreds of scrolls, half of which were jutsu and the other half were information. Over 2 dozen bounties that he hadn't collected yet stored in scrolls. 6 months worth of food, tens of thousands of real locations of other missing in bases. Heck, they even had some books and weapons from the western lands. Quite an accomplishment. The Jinchuriki shook his thoughts away and smiled to himself as he felt Haku shift slightly in his arms where he had fallen asleep. Her face was still buried in the crook of his neck, and she was curled up in his lap, arms squeezing tightly around his neck as her arm breath tickled him each time she exhaled. Her hair fell around her face, just right to frame her face perfectly, and her entire form, all her curves were pressed tightly against him as he held her protectively with his arms around her waist. What is the strange feeling I get around her, Haku? She makes me feel so warm even when her body is freezing. She makes me feel complete, fills in the emptiness that Miko-chan, Tomi-chan, and Itachi-Nisan left when I lost them. I can't explain it. I don't even want to see her cry, to see her in pain. This is a strange feeling, but is it good or bad? Naruto was so damn confused. This was the first time something like this had ever happened to him. She had never had his expression, his emptiness leave just from being around someone. He had never had his heart speed up just from looking at someone. He had never felt complete just from being near a person. Could this be? No? This was no way. There was no way he was in love. He would know if he was, wouldn't he? Warned to so many of those stories he'd read or heard of about love. He should be able to identify it immediately. I mean, she is pretty and smart and patient. She listens to me and cares for me, but she's not obsessive like Hinata. She doesn't try and hit me like Sakura, and she's not obsessed with her image like Ino. Really, Naruto-kun, the former blonde-haired Haku, speak and looked into her wide eyes, her head still laying on his shoulder. You really think I'm pretty? Nani? He asked nervously. I didn't say anything, but we just talked about lots of things like how I was pretty and how I completed you. She looked down sadly and he heard her voice. Maybe not good enough for him. Don't say that. He scolded her. Haku looked up at him and surprised at the tone in his voice. Don't ever say that you're not good enough for me. But I didn't. She frowned. I thought it. You what? Naruto asked why did Naruto's eyes widened, and then suddenly he felt a tug on his gut that was familiar to him and suddenly lost consciousness. Mindscape. Naruto found himself pulled to the familiar scene of a large field with flower animals everywhere. A hunting grounds for Kurama while she was in here. At the corner of the field sat a large hill with a single oak tree above it, and in the shadow of the tree sat the former Kurama. Where are we? Naruto turned quickly and noticed that somehow Haku had come into his mindscape, and not only that. This could present complications, Naruto mumbled, as he noticed a pair of fox ears and 2 foxtails that Haku had within the mindscape. Certain things were shown above the people inside, such as that Naruto always had fox ears and himself inside, and he turned his head and counted his own foxtail, smiling that he still had all 4. Haku-chan, we are inside my mind. It is called the Mindscape, and it is the place where all my memories are located, as well as Kurama-sensei. Haku nodded, and Naruto could only guess that she had seen his memories after the healing just as he had seen hers. So he led her up the hill, and the two sat in front of Kurama, who Naruto noted only had 3 tails instead of the 5 she had kept after the deal they made years ago. Kurama, just what happened when you healed Haku? The red-headed woman sighed, and her student noticed how tired she sounded. The healing of 9 hells, it is a risky endeavor. A kinjutsu of the highest degree to demons. Each of the rings of hell that is used to heal performs different things to both the healer and the healed. The rings are those of thievery, time, loss, punishment, conversion, acolyte, faith, death, and reincarnation. Yes, but what do they do? Naruto asked curiously. Well, in order, the first ring of thievery took the last of Haku's life force. The second ring of time added what she had left to your own, and the third ring of loss gave her enough time to live to finish the healing. Those are the rings of life. The fourth ring of punishment forced you to see every memory the other possesses, sharing all your innermost secrets with each other. That is the cursed ring. The fifth ring of conversion, the sixth ring of acolyte, the seventh ring of faith, and the eighth ring of death are the rings of bonding. In each, there's something different. Converting creates a bond between the DNA of all involved, allowing them to share Kage and other DNA-related attributes. Acolyte, it creates a mind link not unlike the one we share. Naruto-kun, where both can hear each other's thoughts and communicate by that method. Fate forces the two to share a chakra pool that is the sum of each one's chakra reserve. Death makes it so that the healer and the healed will all share one lifespan, and if one dies before they are naturally supposed to, then so will the other. And finally, the ring of reincarnation completes the healing and makes it irreversible. As you can tell, I used my own tails of chakra, and now Haku has her own pool of yokai as well. During the explanation, Haku and Naruto had begun to widen their eyes, and finally, so that means that Haku and I, we are bound for life, and our lives are in each other's hands. I told you everything would change, Naruto-kun, and I told you just as much right after the healing completed. She smiled weakly. I will be stuck in here for a few more days yet, Naruto-kun, so until then, why don't the two of you go back to the real world and get to know each other? And with that, she forced the two back to the base and to their previous position, looking exactly as they had before, save for a missing set of fox ears and tails that didn't show up except in the mindscape. She did smile to herself, though. Soon my kid and his vixen will figure it out, and then maybe I'll be able to spoil and play with his kids. She grinned, just one step at a time. Konoha Hokage's office. Then Zabuza bled to death after killing the bandits. Kakashi just finished giving the missing report to the smiling Hokage, who puffed on his pipe once more. Very well. If there is nothing else, then you may go home. He looked surprised as his running her sturdy grandson stepped forward, a grin on his face that anyone recognized he would wear before doing something mischievous. I have one thing to say, Hokage-sama, who rose in, paid absolute attention to the blonde now. Nothing that he said, Hokage-sama, instead of Gigi. I have reached my boiling point. I am fed up with all that has happened thus far. I am tired of the civilians abusing me, by both physically and psychologically, of shops overcharging me for rotten food, of the council trying to get me executed, locked up, or removed from the ninja program constantly, of me being denied the heritage of my Kasan, of me being denied the identity of my Tao son, of constantly being sabotaged in my academy days, of all adults in this kami-forsaken village blaming me for the QB's crimes, of being seen as a demon, having to run for my life every year on my birthday, for fear of beatings and stabbings, of having to keep Akake Bunshin watch over me as I sleep, of having to make sure my food and water isn't poisoned, of all of the crap Konoha puts me through. So the blonde tore off his Konoha Hittite, the real one that the original had given him for this moment, and threw it at the Hokage before taking out a kunai and stabbing himself, covering himself to burst into a puff of smoke. Kakashi Hiruzen and the Anbu could only stare where it once was silently.